Hi, welcome to week 3. I'm Vanessa and this is Lindsay. We're happy to be with you again. This week we're talking about the twice exceptionality of those that are gifted and also have autism spectrum disorder. As a brief overview, we're going to be looking at definition and features, common twice exceptional struggles for those individuals, different types of therapies and technologies that help these learners as well. I love this picture. I happened to run into Dr. Temple Grandin in the airport, and she's probably our most famous individual that is certainly highly gifted and also is on autism spectrum disorder spectrum. And she is a animal science and husbandry professor up at CSU. Movies have been made about her, and she's written a ton of books also about her experience as a twice exceptional individual and tips. So I highly recommend her work if you're interested. These are some amazing quotes that she has that I think really highlights some of the wonderful things about twice exceptionality. She said, "I believe there's a reason that autism, severe manic depression, and schizophrenia remain in our gene pool, even though there is suffering as a result. What would happen if the autism gene was eliminated from the gene pool? You'd have a bunch of people standing around in a cave, chatting and socializing and not getting anything done." So when we look at some of these unique strengths, we know there's struggles, but there's strengths as well. And I think it's a wonderful thing for us to keep looking at throughout our course time together.
So to get grounded in our work this week, we wanted to talk to you all about some symptoms that individuals with autism spectrum disorder sometimes display. Those can include struggles to read social cues, rigidity in their systems, sensory issues, specific expertise in a very particular and sometimes unique area, intellectual exactability, and intense focus. And we're talking about above and beyond what we would typically see. There are instances where anxiety is also partnered with a lot of these behaviors. There's sometimes a flat affect in their communication. There's very literal thinking, there's very logical thinking, and sometimes divergent thinking than those of their typical peers. We also sometimes see limited eye contact with those around them. And when there is an unexpected change to that routine or to what they are experiencing, sometimes we do see additional struggles that come along with that. Some other common struggles that we see are the perseveration. That's when we're going to be really focused on a task or a topic. We also tend to see work refusal. That's a common thing that we see when we're in the classroom. And so that would be something that we would really want to focus on. We also see struggles when it comes to friendships and other social connections in the world around them. Individuals with autism spectrum disorder often struggle with written communications as well. That can be both through some of those gross and fine motor skills, but also through completing their sentences and getting those words together. We also see that they also can struggle with many choices. And so we want to make sure that there's often chances that there's open and collaborative experiences for those individuals, but this can also be an area of struggle. And then this is one that I can also just identify with as a person who also does struggle with that organization piece. We know that people that are on the spectrum sometimes really struggle with those executive functioning skills. Some pieces that we wanted to identify, though, that also can indicate that giftedness and that twice exceptionality is very sophisticated speaking, but poor written skills. We also can see that there's excellent memory in those specific areas of interest, but maybe not so strong in areas that there isn't that fondness for. We also see that they understand easily like new concepts, but can become very frustrated easily with those performance components if it takes lots of practice or it takes that time to grow. There's also opportunities when we're looking in class discussion, or we're looking in the environment where individuals may look checked out. But then when they have they're called on, or there's a time that they can share in, they are absolutely able to answer the questions. The other piece is they may become very involved and passionate with an area. So much so that it's a really big struggle when it's time to transition or move on to a different topic or activity. So with those struggles, we know that there's often strategies and therapies that can help out. In your readings, you'll see that there is a wonderful toolkit that we are providing for you to get grounded on just what those struggles are and what are some strategies that people can employ. Some therapies themselves that are very common when working with students with autism spectrum disorder are occupational therapy, physical therapy, therapies for sensory integration, speech language therapy, and then you'll also find a variety of technology opportunities to integrate for students. There are tons and tons and tons of apps out there. We have put together just a synthesized group list of those for you all to access so you get some ideas of how you can work with your students. Another really fabulous resource that we want to make sure that you're aware of is the website for Autism Speaks. There is some readings from there this week that we want to make sure you are accessing, but also it is a wealth of, it's a wonderful resource where you can look and you can get lots of up-to-date research, but also strategies. And then there's also sometimes those chat boards where you can partner with those in the community.
So, right before we signed off, if you wanted to touch on some of the language components as far as how individuals with autism may or may not prefer to be identified and addressed.
Absolutely. So there are two camps that are out there around that identification of students and individuals with autism. There is one camp that believes in person first language. So when you're identifying them as an individual with autism spectrum disorder, and there's also another camp that prefers to be identity first, and they prefer to be identified as an autistic person. And so I think it's really important to identify that there are those two camps, and that it really is working with and knowing the person that you're talking to with autism spectrum disorder on their perfect personal preference. You can find scholarly articles that go both ways, and so we wanted to acknowledge that and make sure that you have that awareness as well. So
we're looking forward to working with you this week. Thanks. Bye-bye.